Okay, so get this. Paris Fashion Week, right? Balenciaga show. Cameras are going crazy. And then, bam, there's this clip of Nicole Kidman and Salma Hayek. Internet absolutely loses it.
Ah, yes.
We've all seen it, but we're going to get past those headlines today, figure out what's really going on. We've got this People article, claims to have some juicy insider info, so let's jump in, see if this whole feud thing is actually real or just more internet BS.
It's kind of wild how just a few seconds of video, right,
Yeah.
gets spun into this whole big narrative. That's how our brains work, right?
Yeah.
They see patterns, make snap judgments, especially when there's potential drama.
Oh, for sure.
And then you throw in social media, which just loves to stir the pot, and boom, everyone's talking about it.
Exactly. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's back up a sec. We're talking about Paris Fashion Week, the Balenciaga show to be precise.
Yeah.
High fashion central, celebrities everywhere, total sensory overload. And you know what? I feel like the internet missed a pretty important detail. This was actually Nicole Kidman's first public appearance after her mother passed away.
Oh, wow.
Talk about walking into a super emotionally charged environment.
Yeah, no kidding. That context is so crucial, right?
Yeah.
And it's often the first thing to get lost in these quick social media takes, like grief. It hits everyone differently. You can't assume everyone processes it the same way. So, regardless of what was or wasn't going on between her and Salma Hayek at that moment, it's got to be said, Nicole Kidman was probably dealing with a whole lot on an emotional level.
Absolutely. Okay, so rewind back to this clip everyone's talking about. You see Kidman, Hayek, Katy Perry all posing for photos. At one point, Hayek reaches over, seems like she's adjusting Kidman for the cameras. Then Kidman takes Hayek's hand off, turns away, hugs Perry. There's a little exchange with Hayek before Kidman walks off, and of course the internet goes bonkers, feud, everyone's screaming. But is it really that serious?
Well, this is where things get interesting. Body language analysis, it's a complicated thing, right? You can't just take one gesture and assume you know what it means. There's nuance, micro-expressions, the overall vibe. Heck, even cultural norms can play a part. It's not always as straightforward as it looks.
And you know what else? There's another clip from that same night. This one shows Kidman and Hayek smiling. Kidman even touches Hayek's shoulder at one point, so how come that clip isn't blowing up everyone's feeds?
Because, let's face it, conflict sells.
Right.
It's basic human nature. We're wired to zero in on anything that seems like a threat
Yeah.
and a potential celebrity feud. Way more exciting than just two women being friendly.
True.
Taps into that gossip instinct we all have. Our fascination with the rich and famous.
Right. For sure. Okay, but hold on a sec. People's article, they've got this quote from an insider at the show. Says, I'm reading this directly, nothing happened. They were being bombarded by cameras at the end of the show while in the middle of a conversation. People are looking at clips and making a story out of nothing. So how much weight should we give to something like that?
That's a great question, and this is where understanding how the media works is crucial. These inside sources, they always have an agenda.
Yeah.
It's very possible this source is connected to Kidman, Hayek, or both. And their goal, damage control. Now, it doesn't mean they're lying, necessarily,
Right.
but we got to maintain a healthy dose of skepticism, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. Especially since People then goes on to quote another anonymous source. This one's supposedly close to the women. And this person's like, this whole situation is silly. Salma and Nicole love and respect each other. So now we've got two sources claiming there's no feud. How do we even know what to believe anymore?
Well, that's when zooming out can be helpful. Look at the bigger picture, right? For example, Hayek, she posted photos from that same event on her Instagram. And guess what? One of them's with Kidman. If things were truly bad between them, you think she'd do that?
Good point. Plus, there's the Kidman-Cruise-Hayek connection. Now, for those who don't know, Hayek is actually good friends with Tom Cruise, Kidman's ex-husband.
Right.
And they've been friends for years, worked together, been photographed together socially, the whole 9 yards. Doesn't that make it even less likely that there's real tension there?
It absolutely does. Hollywood, it's a smaller world than people realize.
Yeah.
And understanding those long-standing relationships, really important for context. We can't know for sure what happens behind closed doors, but these connections, they exist. They definitely influence how we should interpret these public interactions.
And here's another layer to consider, the business side of things.
Oh, right.
Kidman's currently the face of Balenciaga, and Hayek's husband just so happens to be the CEO of its parent company, Kering. A public feud between them. That would be bad news for everyone involved, business-wise.
Exactly. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the most likely one. It's way more plausible that they're just navigating those complicated waters of personal and professional relationships, just like the rest of us.
It's just crazy how quick we are to jump to that feud narrative, though, huh?
It's true.
Like, we'd rather believe there's some big drama than just accept that maybe, just maybe, it's not that deep.
It's because we love a good story. Our brains, they crave it.
Yeah,
And conflict. It's a powerful ingredient for a good story.
right.
We're hit with so much information all the time, right?
Yeah,
And our minds try to simplify things.
makes sense.
And one way they do that is by fitting events into these neat little narratives that we're already familiar with.
Oh, totally.
And a celebrity feud, well, that's a story we all know. Easy to grasp.
Exactly. But the reality, like, with actual human beings, way more complicated.
Oh, wait.
We're talking about real people here, not just characters in some soap opera.
That's right. And I think this whole thing, it just highlights a bigger issue.
Yeah.
How we consume celebrity news in this age
Yeah.
of social media. It's like we see a clip, a headline, a quick moment on camera, and suddenly we think we've got it all figured out.
Yeah, we think we have the whole story, but we so rarely do.
Right.
It's like we forget that there's a whole backstory we don't see. Years of history, personal connections, work stuff, all those things that influence how people act around each other.
Absolutely. And those algorithms,
Wow.
they know exactly what they're doing. They feed us more of what grabs our attention, which, let's be honest, is often negativity, conflict, outrage.
True.
And it creates this cycle, right? We're constantly on edge, looking for the next scandal, the next feud. And in the process, I think we lose sight of, well, nuance, empathy, critical thinking.
So how do we break that cycle then?
Awareness is key. The next time you see one of those viral moments, or a crazy headline, or hear a juicy bit of gossip, take a breath.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what am I not seeing here? Whose story is being told, and more importantly, whose story is being left out?
It's about catching ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Resisting that urge to react immediately and actually stopping to think that maybe, just maybe, there's more to it than we realize.
Exactly. The truth is rarely black and white. And honestly, the most interesting stories, they're usually found in those gray areas, the spaces between those attention-grabbing headlines.
Well, next time you find yourself getting pulled into one of these celebrity feud things, remember this conversation. Remember that there's always more than meets the eye, and don't let a 10-second clip shape your whole opinion about a situation or people you don't even know. Think critically, question those assumptions, and remember, celebrities, they're just as complex as the rest of us.